For more than 2 centuries, no foreign army has successfully invaded and held the American mainland. Was that luck or something else? Think about it. Britain once controlled a quarter of the world. Napoleon reshaped Europe. The Mongols built the largest land empire in history. Yet none of them, and no one since, managed to land troops in the United States and hold the territory. Not in 1812, not during 2 world wars, not even during the Cold War, when superpowers had enough nuclear weapons to destroy civilization. So what stopped them? Was it just military power? Aircraft carriers and missiles? Or is there something deeper, something written into the land itself? Because here's the strange part. Remove the jets, the tanks, even the Pentagon, and invading America would still be a logistical nightmare. The country is protected by something that existed long before modern weapons. Let's run a thought experiment. Imagine you're a military strategist. Your mission is simple: invade the United States. You have unlimited resources, unlimited funding, advanced technology, a massive army. Where do you begin? You open a map, and the problem immediately stares back at you. 2 oceans. To the east, thousands of miles of water. To the west, even more. The Atlantic and the Pacific aren't just obstacles. They're massive defensive multipliers. Let's say you choose the Atlantic. You don't just need to cross it. You need to sustain an invasion force while crossing it. This isn't a small raid. It's tens of thousands of troops, vehicles, fuel, ammunition, food, spare parts, all moving together in coordination. That means hundreds of ships. And ships aren't fast. You can't sneak across an ocean. Satellites track departures. Recon aircraft monitor movements. Submarines shadow fleets. But the real issue isn't just detection. You're not only fighting the US military, you're fighting time and distance. Every day at sea stretches your supply line further. Every hour gives the defender more time to prepare, reinforce the coast, deploy aircraft, move naval assets, lock down ports. By the time you're halfway across, the East Coast is already shifting into defense mode. But let's say you make it. Now you have to land. Where? New York? Densely populated and heavily secured. Miami? Swamps, hurricanes, exposed terrain. Chesapeake Bay? Naval infrastructure everywhere. And here's the brutal reality. Beaches are kill zones. The defender has range advantage. Artillery is pre-calculated. Air support arrives in minutes. Naval guns respond from offshore. You're not storming a lightly defended coastline. You're walking into layered defense. So maybe the Pacific is better? It's worse. The Pacific is wider. Your supply lines double in length. Thousands of miles of open ocean where a single submarine can disrupt months of planning. And once you reach the West Coast, mountains, the Sierra Nevada, the Cascades, natural barriers rising behind coastal cities. Seattle and San Francisco are geographically constrained. Los Angeles is vast, but surrounded by desert and mountain passes. You land troops, and then what? You're pinned to a narrow coastal strip, facing difficult terrain before you even reach the heart of the country. This is the quiet genius of American geography. It doesn't just rely on size. It relies on distance. Before a single shot is fired, the invasion has already become a months-long, trillion-dollar logistical burden. And that's just the oceans. What about the back door? Maybe you invade through Canada or Mexico. On paper, that sounds easier. Land borders, no ocean crossing. But both routes are traps. Start with Canada. It's massive, the second largest country in the world. But most of it is sparsely populated wilderness. Harsh climate, limited infrastructure, long stretches of forest and tundra. If you move through Canada, you either push through underdeveloped terrain or funnel into narrow population corridors that are easy to defend. And here's the key detail. The US and Canada share the longest undefended border in the world. Why undefended? Because there is no threat. The two countries cooperate, share intelligence, monitor the airspace together. Any large-scale military buildup through Canada would be visible immediately. That route closes fast. So what about Mexico? Warmer climate, closer to major US cities. Sounds promising, until you study the terrain. The southern border stretches across desert, mountains, and the Rio Grande River system. It's one of the harshest environments on the continent. Extreme temperatures, limited water, minimal natural cover. Moving a mechanized army through that region requires enormous logistical support. And even if you cross, you're in Texas, an enormous state larger than many countries. Major energy production, heavy industry, deep infrastructure. Push north from there and you hit the Great Plains. Wide open terrain. Perfect for defenders. Hard for attackers. Long sight lines. No concealment. Easy reinforcement routes for the defending side. And then there's the Mississippi River. The Mississippi isn't just a river. It's a spine. Stretching from Minnesota to the Gulf of Mexico, it functions as a transportation artery, an industrial corridor, and a defensive barrier. Crossing a major river under fire is one of the hardest operations in warfare. Bridges become choke points. Defenders can destroy them. Amphibious crossings require engineering units, time, and air superiority. Time the attacker doesn't have. But the Mississippi also represents something else. Internal resilience. Long before railroads, it carried agricultural goods, raw materials, and industrial output from the interior to global markets. That network still exists. Barges move millions of tons of cargo every year. Farms, factories, and ports are interconnected. This matters because it means the US does not depend entirely on imports for survival. Food, energy, steel, machinery, much of it is domestic. Blockading the coast wouldn't shut down the heartland. Factories would continue. Farms would continue. Production would continue. And the country itself is enormous. Roughly the size of Europe. But unlike Europe, it's one political system, one currency, one logistics network. No internal borders slowing reinforcement. You can move troops and equipment across thousands of miles without crossing into another sovereign state. That unity is a strategic advantage few regions in the world possess. Now imagine the invader's situation. You crossed an ocean. You landed on hostile shores. You pushed inland through deserts, mountains, and rivers. And now you're trying to occupy a landmass the size of Europe. With over 300 million people spread across cities, suburbs, and rural areas. It's not just difficult. It's unsustainable. History proves it. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor. Japan launched a surprise attack, sinking battleships and killing thousands. It was a devastating blow, but it didn't change the equation. Because Pearl Harbor was thousands of miles from the mainland. Japan never had the naval capacity to invade continental America. It didn't have the ships. It didn't have the supply lines. And it knew it. The attack was meant to buy time, not conquer territory. Meanwhile, The American industrial base, protected by oceans, accelerated. Factories in Detroit, Pittsburgh, and California expanded production at extraordinary speed. Within a few years, the United States was producing aircraft and ships at a scale no rival could match. Why? Because the industrial core was untouched. No bombers flattening manufacturing centers. No foreign army occupying the interior. The war remained overseas. That's the power of geographic depth. You can lose battles abroad and still outproduce your enemies at home. Germany learned this the hard way. Even with advanced submarines disrupting Atlantic shipping, it couldn't break American production. The US built ships faster than they could be sunk. Eventually, industrial weight crushed resistance. So when we ask why America has never been successfully invaded, part of the answer is simple. No rival has ever possessed the logistical capacity to sustain it. Not at the height of European empires. Not during World War II. Not even during the Cold War. Because invasion is not just about having a strong army. It's about sustaining that army across impossible distances against a defender with every geographic advantage. Here's the reality. America is not invincible. No country is. But invading and holding it? That's not just a military operation. It's a logistical fantasy. You must cross an ocean, land on defended shores, push through mountains, deserts, and rivers, occupy a continental-scale landmass, sustain supply lines thousands of miles long, all while the defender's factories keep running, its agriculture keeps producing, its infrastructure remains intact. And even if you somehow succeed in landing, holding it would be another battle entirely. The truth is this. America's greatest defense is not just its military. It's the land itself. The oceans that keep enemies distant. The rivers and mountains that funnel movement. The vast scale that stretches any supply line to the breaking point. The industrial heartland beyond bombing range. This is not luck. Geography writes a nation's destiny. But becoming a superpower depends on how that geography is used.